Writing is for words.
Yes.
Indeed.
Or birds.
Or birds.
Or the thirds.
Yes.
Everything is in rules of 3, right?
And maybe nerds, too.
And maybe nerds.
Maybe nerds, too.
And maybe some turds.
Well, okay.
I mean, but yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to podcast 107.
That's right.
107.
Mm-hmm.
National No Writing Month, haven't you? No. National
Novel writing
month.
Yes,
Exactly.
although, I mean, you could have it be National No Writing Month. Hey, that'd be even more powerful because then it's the reverse. You're basically saying during November, take a break, but then for the rest of the year,
you must write.
Yeah.
That would be a good trend to set because I feel like what we're going to talk about here is a lot of principle-based stuff, but a lot of it will be also about that minutia stuff of how you stick with a story and finish it out, because in some ways that's the freakiest thing about I would assume that's the freakiest thing about NaNoWriMo is that it's not just come up with a concept for a story. It's actually like plotting it out.
Right, because the
beginning to end.
Because you actually most of the work is done in the preparation, if anything, because you don't want to have to be thinking about what you're going to be doing when you're writing.
Yeah, because then you just write, and you write badly, basically, because you just want to get it all out there. But before we go too far into this, we got to give our VIP shout out to Ventus Official. Thank you so much for the support, joining us recently on the Discord. It's cool having you here, and thank you so much for the support, bro. Appreciate it.
Is it just me or is the volume super low? This is what it's usually set to.
I think it's actually pretty normal, if anything. I might have been a little bit quiet when I was talking normally,
I sometimes talk quietly too.
No, I don't think
Volume's normal for me. Okay,
yeah. If anything, Twitch might have just turned you down or something. But we got a new Twitch Prime sub from Chilltown Rios. Thank you so much for the sub.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank
it
you
very much. Also, a lot of follows here.
Quite
Holy
a few.
crap.
Yes.
Let me just go down the list here. Dormfet, Lily James, Lightning Strike, Co Chunk, Of Flappy Birdo, Marco Rosu, Rubia DC Empire, Steven66404, Metatron, 27 Danielle. Thank you all so much for the follows. And then NTF, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime sub for 9 months.
Yes.
Awesome. Got a lot of people here and stuff. But, anyone in chat doing NaNoWriMo? Now, you're doing NaNoWriMo, right?
Yeah, and what NaNoWriMo is, for any of you who don't know, is that it's basically during the month of November, you try and write 50,000 words for a new story, and use that as like a way to basically crank through the first draft. So that we can get onto the editing, because that's actually where most of the work takes place.
Yes.
And 50,000 words in a month averages out to like 1,700 words a day. So it's something that's really tough to do, but you can do it. And if you do it, it is very, very helpful. But also if you're not into, say, writing, for instance, something like NaNoWriMo could, and thinking about how someone goes about doing it, can help you give insight into other stories that are of a similar format length, because like light novels are about like a 50,000 word story that's about 200 pages.
Sure.
So light novels, movies in a lot of ways, because a movie
like a screenplay
follows that follows about the same amount of content, you know. You'd be able to convert a 200 page book to a movie without losing much content, you know.
Right, because there's a lot of established stuff in a book that you don't necessarily have in a movie because it's all visual, but if you translate that into words, it would be around the same amount of content,
depending on, you know, writing style and description versus dialogue and things like that. But because in the case of NaNoWriMo, because you're trying to write it in such a small amount of time, the planning is very important, which means that certain things about, like, say, outlining a story that's about movie length or light novel length or whatever, that's something that you have to put a lot of thought into, because you don't want to be figuring it out while you're doing it. Right. So analyzing and strategizing for things like NaNoWriMo also kind of works well for trying to get behind the scenes and behind the veil of maybe the psychology of what some of the things people do for movies and stuff are.
Because writing is writing when it comes down to it. You're essentially trying to birth a, universe, a set of characters, a world, a plot, a conflict, and all this stuff out of thin air. But in order to get, I would say, down into the nitty-gritty of writing, which is just putting in the hours, and I will tell you, as someone who has not been able to put in the hours and finish a full-on writing project of even a, like even something that would be the equivalent of like a 200-page book or something like that. Watching this guy go through the hours and hours and hours and hours that it takes, you realize why a lot of people don't end up successful as a writer. It's because you might end up writing 2 or 3 books, and it is brutal. It is hard work.
It sucks.
And in some ways, that's probably why I like doing DMing as kind of the alternate, which is going to be my take in the podcast here, not from the author perspective, but from the writing a story in the course of a month, something that's going to be a little bit of a loose canon with one N in the middle, but having still a progression of events, a set of characters, a world, all that stuff is basically the the weaker version of that book that I would love to write.
Right. But the thing is that like with you really, one of the things that's awesome about short form storytelling is that you have to hit the high beats, and you can't really dilly-dally or mess around with other stuff because you can't have 8 characters that are all like main characters in a 200-page book. It just doesn't work, right? And especially if you're introducing the characters, or like if you have to introduce a world as well, like when you think about like, oh, why are all the isekai and things like that like just sort of generic D&D settings, right? A lot of it's probably because, hey, then they don't have to worry about introducing all of the different variations and nuance of that in a 200-page book. They can say it's a D&D isekai world. There you go.
Yeah, we cut through a lot of the expositional chunk that's going to waste a bunch of time so that we can get to an actual story here, rather than establishing you for a world that I'm not actually going to be invested in the long term. If this light novel, for instance, doesn't get a lot of traction. Yeah. Oh, Bloodhawk Flock, by the way, thank you so much for the 1,100 bits.
Yes,
thank you. I think you left a message up here, and I missed it. Glad I can make a stream. Hello, everyone. Hello, Bloodhawk.
Welcome.
Good to have you here.
I've just found out about NaNoWriMo and got sad that I can't take part because of all my university assignments, one of which is a creative fictional writing task. Wait a second.
Hey, I'll just tell you the numbers of it. When you think about time in a month, and then you think about like just typing speed, like if you think about that November hasn't started yet, how much time it would actually take to outline just a mediocre story, like nothing that's anything special that you're like really excited about. I don't think you would take longer than a week.
Well, and
like because
depending on how much time you put into it each day, because the thing is like, or at least what NaNoWriMo was super helpful for me when I first did it. And first completed it, because the first time I tried it, I quit the first day and I was like, nope, that's crazy, I'm not doing it. Which is a pretty normal response considering that it's 1,667 words a day. But one of the things that it helped me a lot with was getting my head out of the space of it needs to be perfect on the first draft. Or in fact, it needs to be even remotely good on the first draft, because oftentimes it's not. And the first draft is to just get everything out there so that then you have some form of something to work with, and then you can edit, which is where the difficulty comes in.
Right.
So in the case of something like, say, NaNoWriMo, with just a week, you might be able to just say, okay, I'm going to do something. It might not be something I'm particularly excited to write because it doesn't feel like it's going to be some masterpiece or whatever. But then, hey, you do it, you're able to do it, and then you've got a finished story, right? Which in a lot of cases, like for me when I started it, I'd never done that before. And then it's like, okay, maybe I can do this thing.
It would probably be about 250 words a page, I would say, Behenor.
That's what it generally comes out to, as like a ish.
You just researched a bit about it. No wonder I never heard about it. Apparently in 2016, only 262 out of 7.7 million people were from my country.
Wow.
Perv. So gotcha. It is definitely a global thing, but it is more popular in certain areas than others. And there are a lot of cool support groups, little communities that form around it. So that if this is basically the kind of thing where you basically need just to get up off your ass and write, this is that thing that can help push you, because it feels like you're doing this not just alone. There's a lot of other people that aren't necessarily counting on you, but you can kind of feel like we're all in this together. We're all pushing forward, going beyond, and that that semblance of camaraderie, at least. I think
Right.
that would help me at an emotional level with
Yeah.
getting going. Trash Ocon with a Twitch Prime. Thank you so much for the sub. Hey, Jacob, will we ever see what you have written in that period?
Yes and no.
Ah.
The no is because the first
Yeah.
time I did it, it was an awful like way for me to just try and cope with the fact that I had quit Dota. So it was a self-insert like slice of life garbage thing where people just playing MOBAs and stuff. It was awful, right?
And now there's totally not an anime coming out about people playing MOBA, you know.
Yeah, but then the other thing that I did for the next one was for Battle Lines. Actually, that was where I
Right.
finished the first draft of Battle Lines. Now, I did have this up online at some point, and some people were able to find it. And that was interesting. But if you want to read Battle Lines, which is what came from this, Amazon, boom, link in the description of our videos. But
Yep.
but yeah, so that's basically how you would read it. But I'm not letting you guys see what the first draft was because it was awful.
Right.
It was awful.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I would say that as I've only done this twice, where I've gone into what I would call stream of consciousness writing, where I planned out what I wanted the general story to be, but I'm shit for writing dialogue. Like, pardon my French, but I'm actually like still horrendously bad at writing dialogue. And whenever I am writing an event, a scene, or what have you, and I will basically just say, this person says this person says this person says this, they respond this, and I basically map out the conversation with cause-effect language. Then, way later, I'll go back and be like, okay, now, what are they actually saying?
Yeah.
Okay, that's how bad I think we should be, like, comfortable with writing when we're in a moment of just kind of write. Don't worry about quality.
One of the things that I talked with some people a few days ago about, basically, because we're all getting together to. It's really cool, actually. Some people in my D&D group are wanting to do NaNoWriMo too. So it's like, okay, cool, yeah, I've done this before, So let's do it. And it was some good motivation to get me to be like, all right, yeah, let's do this. But one of the things that we were talking about is, okay, what are the stories going to be about? Because we want to have that, we want to have it figured out beforehand.
Sure.
And it was amazing to get their insight and to be able to like talk about things out loud out here, because I'm an external processor. But one of the things, because one of the ideas that I was spinning around in my head was a pirate story, and we used Pirates of the Caribbean as an example to try and like pick apart what they did in that movie and why. And it's actually it's pretty crazy how systematic it is. It doesn't feel like it when you watch the movie because it's just a great romp of a movie, right?
Sure.
But when you realize, like, oh, Jack Sparrow got captured and rescued or busted himself out somehow 5 different times over the course of a single movie. Like, they introduced a character and they had that happen 5 times in one movie. And it was like it was over 2 hours. It's like, what, 2:20 or something like that. But still. And then, like, the way they made it so that, like, Jack and Will had the same a similar direction, but they had different goals, so they had all the conflict along the way. And then Jack had the connection to Barbossa, and Barbossa had the connection to Elizabeth, and Barbossa was able to be established as a revenge plot because he kidnapped Elizabeth. So because of the proximity to Elizabeth, we were able to find out who Barbossa was before him and Jack ever got reunited. And then Elizabeth, okay, Will's going after Elizabeth, but then, okay, there's going to be a final battle, and we need to have all the characters be together and all that stuff. So we're going to have Jack and Elizabeth get stranded on a desert island and get drunk together, so we can really quickly have them be a bit vulnerable with each other, so that way, in the end, when Elizabeth's like, whose side is Jack on, she's not like, whose side is that random dude over there on? Right? Like, because how weird would that be?
That's true.
All these little things that just
a good point.
Sort of go together.
And then tied all together with a simple MacGuffin that united the 2 lovers at the beginning of the story, so that they had a reason to connect with each other beyond the, oh wow, they're Hollywood hot people.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, as unfortunate as I see a lot of the sequels to Pirates of the Caribbean being, as far as like what they did, the first one is. It is really a masterpiece. Like,
there's a good
incredible.
There's a good YouTube video out there called Pirates of the Caribbean: The Accidental Masterpiece. Actually, highly recommend watching it if you haven't yet. But yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean 1 has a lot of the tenets or the structural beats, I would say, of a near perfect adventure story.
Like, even down to the whole idea of
because I was going to say,
continue.
actually, the cast is surprisingly small.
Mhm.
This is the thing
only
that
4 main characters.
yeah, and if that
Right.
kind of barely, because
that's
that
counting
counting the antagonist.
Right, that counts the antagonist. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
And because usually in a story that short, and 4 it really is the max. And the fact that they were able to have 4 is seriously impressive, because normally you'd have 3, maybe just 2, right? For a movie.
3.
Yeah, exactly. And they were able to do 4 because they had things streamlined and going in parallel. And there was, so the whole thing of that box that sort of formed between all the characters to connect them all, right?
Right.
That made it so that it's like, okay, yeah, we're introducing Elizabeth and Barbossa at kind of the same time. We're introducing Jack and Will kind of at the same time. And then as far as like the literal introductions, they don't go for the regular thing that like a lot of pirate movies would go for, or pirate stories in general, where
pirate movies in general usually sucked.
They usually sucked. And one of the things that they often happened was that it was the adventuring pirates on the seas. And then you have the crew, and how do you handle the crew? Because that mucks up the entire setup. So what do, right? Well, we'll make it so that this pirate captain, not only is he not just the general, like, everything goes well for him pirate, in fact, everything goes terribly for him, which makes us sympathize because it shows him creatively solving problems. But then we don't need to worry about the crew because he doesn't have one, right? Yeah. And they introduce that other crew later, but it's just like, shtick 1, shtick 2, and that's really it. Like,
the others are just there to fill up space. Yeah. In fact, there's actually some really famous actors and actresses that end up being kind of extras in Pirates of the Caribbean, like the girl from the new Star Trek reboots. She's just casually the one that's all like, "You stole my boat,"
right?
Actually, and that's just there for a gimmick, for a joke.
Yep.
But like that's kind of the fun thing.
And in fact, a lot of it is less to build up them as characters, but it's more to build up Jack as a character, right? Because we need to believe that he is a pirate, that he's made the rounds and things like that. All the times that people are like, "Oh, Jack Sparrow," or just all the other girls that slap him in Tortuga and things like that,
Behanort, the part where you're explaining that NaNoWriMo is, now I googled it, how many pages is 50k words again? About 200.
Give or take.
Yeah, 12 type font,
right? Not
single 0.5, I would say.
Well, the
spacing,
single spacing with extra spacing between paragraphs, and not manuscript pages. So not like if you're in like Word or something like that. Not pages like that, because those will be formatted usually for 8.5 by 11. But like when you end up getting to the point where you actually have like in a book, like a light novel, basically.
Right.
It's about 200 pages.
Yeah. But it's very feasible when you get into the math of it all.
Right.
When you think about the actual time it takes for you to write 100 words, like think about that, and it's like, oh, that's actually not that bad. And then you go, okay, now multiply that times 15 or something, and then do that every day. Oh, actually, that's not that crazy. It is hard to stick with it and be consistent.
Well, and it's not that crazy as long as you turn your internal editor off.
Yes.
Which is why the prep is super important, because again,
so true.
You don't want to be thinking about doing anything other than writing. And when I think about like this is probably how a lot of the big companies out there are able to churn out, stories and things like that. Because the idea of, like, let's say, they spend 2 years making a movie, or 3 years or something like that, right? Assuming it's not like some like animated film, because those generally take longer, but okay, that's from starting working on the movie to the very end of the movie. The amount of time spent for just say like coming up with the story is probably very little, especially considering the amount of like post-production and editing and things like that must happen, right?
It's about 50-50 in terms of like the actual shooting versus post-production. So if a movie will take on average about like 10 months of shooting, which is pretty big actually, there'll be like another 10 months like minimum of post-production just on the the editing stuff there.
And that's
potentially also additional, given that there's probably footage that is being there's a little bit of post-production being done during the shooting phase, because they can allocate resources to other people.
I don't know that much about like the behind the scenes stuff of movies, right?
Same, me neither.
But when I think about like what would have to happen to make productions happen like they happen, and especially if you ever need to like say do editing on the writing side of things, like think about like the most recent Star Wars movies, right? How for say the Last Jedi, it kind of you know, it had some writing it stumbled, shall we say, you know. And when you think about it, it's like, okay, writing, you know, it shouldn't be that big of a deal to just change something.
Sure.
It's like, well, but then you have this big project behind it, and you know, every week that you wait is a ridiculous amount of money being lost because the entire production might be grinding to a halt, right? And then it's
prep time. Be like Batman,
right?
And use your prep time.
Yep.
So, Jacob, if someone was to start NaNoWriMo in a week, you know, it's October 21st.
I would personally say you'd want more than a week.
Right. Like, so in terms of if they were to still start it though, what would you recommend for someone to get like a bare bones, you know, mediocre passes the min bar outline so that they can at least do this with, you know, some direction?
I would say to take a story that already exists and basically do a retelling of it that's in your own way. So don't try and come up with something completely different. Not necessarily fan fiction, but let's say I love Toradora, right? So I love Toradora. I would love to make a Toradora equivalent. Then I'd basically be like, okay, I'm going to make a rom-com, you know, and then I'm going to try and make sure that I give it my own spin, make it fresh, whatever. And then that way the planning for like the skeleton of it is largely set up of just, who's who. Yeah,
what
exactly.
Their personalities are.
Right. Yeah. You know, okay, I've got a general format of this is the high school rom-com. And then now I fill in all the details to try and...
It's like Fate. You basically just choose a different girl, a different waifu.
And then apply Saber Clone. Yeah.
Liberally where necessary.
Toradora deserves an after story. I would love a Toradora after story.
That would be really good.
That would be wonderful.
Hey, we got some new subs here. Laconic Kibitz, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime. And Captain Jolly Roger, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime for 12 months in a row.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Anime Fange, also, thank you so much for the follow. Awesome. Welcome.
Wow, that's exactly what I'm doing, Jacob. I mean, hey, do what works.
There you go.
And the thing is like, and it's okay if you get to the end of it and you're like, you know, I don't think I really like this. Because that's normal.
That's very normal.
That means you did your job well. Because the thing is, unless you've been doing this for a very long time, in which case you don't need my advice.
And you're Stephen King.
Right. Then your first draft will suck.
It should suck serious balls.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, here there are some new people that have been joining recently, but here's an example of where I tried to draft up something for a world that I was co-authoring with a buddy of mine, and I basically had this idea of where we would both pass along our manuscripts via Google Drive back and forth, but what we would do is we would draft up the main character that we were basically writing for. So we were going to have a dual main character kind of set up there, and we each write the main characters and just kind of put them out there, okay? So the stuff that I would put in is basically just like, then this person goes here, and then this person does this, and then this person says this, and then this person goes there, and then this, and then this. And it was basically a bunch of and then. I just wrote the causal relationship thing because I wasn't organized with the outline and stuff like that. But I was able to put out some, like, I think it was close to like 12,000 words in the course of like, I don't know, a week or something.
There you go.
Because it was like, oh, okay, I'm not caring at all what this looks like. And then I sent it to my buddy, and he just went, he's like, yeah, he's like, been there. Like, yeah. But his thing was then he's like, no, I actually like writing dialogue. He was like kind of in the enjoyment stage of it that you were at back when you were looking into how Black Lagoon handled like certain like individual scenes really well.
It makes me I was I'd gotten into other shows as well, like earlier, because I had such limited lists of anime to look from. Not that they weren't good, but
you take what you can for
exactly. Sure. And and the other thing I will say about prep your characters, figure out your characters. If you can do some writing for the characters to just try and get in their skin, because if you know what the characters are like, then you don't have to worry about what will happen next. Right. You get in the zone and you just start word vomiting, and the characters will lead you in a direction. Because that is characters are I feel where most of the problems end up coming up, because you don't know what they would do in the situation, assuming you don't have some super complicated world with complicated puzzles and things like that.
Yep.
And oftentimes the first draft is just getting to know the characters. Like, the story doesn't even end up keeping the same shape or anything. It's just by the end you're like, all right, yeah, I know who these characters are, and then now I can
axe about 50% of it, because it's
or,
going
well, 50%
or all of it.
Try 90 to 100%.
Yeah,
because like, okay,
I meant the part that wasn't exploring the character, because if most of it ends up being exploring the character, then
well, no, even then.
Oh, like, even then,
yeah, like, okay,
because it doesn't fit. That character doesn't fit.
Spoilers for Battle Lines.
Oh, here we go.
So mute this or whatever until if you haven't read Battle Lines, until I put my hand down.
His hand down.
So okay.
Give him like a countdown.
Yeah. So 5, 4,
3, 2, 1.
Okay, so in Battle Lines, the only thing, as far as I can remember from the first draft, that like stayed to the final draft was the fight between Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn. And the Dance with Venus thing. That whole bit. Other than that, everything else from draft 1 was scrapped. Even if there were things that were still kind of similar, they had to be completely rewritten.
But that makes perfect sense why that stayed, because the dance is like, it's like one of the best scenes. Straight up, I heard, Jacob, I heard that there's a scene exactly like that in Genlock.
Really?
Yeah, straight up.
Oh, man.
And you wrote that like years before.
Oh, man. Okay, so spoilers over.
Spoilers over.
You can unmute it now. But yeah, so the thing is that the non-spoiler version is that there was only one thing from draft 1 of Battle Lines that really stayed till the final draft. And even then it had to be rewritten a bunch, but, it was still pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Okay, so when I've done something similar to this, and again, it was only twice. The first time I was trying to do a short story of like, maybe 20,000 words. We're talking like really, really short comparatively there.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite thing that I liked about it was just a simple caper. It was just the idea of getting into an impossible location, and it was one character, mostly in their head, thinking their way through situations, and it was just other characters reacting to their actions. So the idea was the freneticism of like, okay, now I have to figure out how to do this here and how to do this here. Oh crap, now this thing shifted. So I wanted people to feel like they were really piloting through the eyes of a person on a first person perspective.
Yeah.
The writing was absolute garbage because I couldn't do dialogue, mind you. So all I had was constant monologuing from the thoughts of the main character going through this thing. And the occasional part where a person would be like, "Can I help you, sir? Why are you here in this place that you shouldn't be?" And he'd be like, "Crap. Okay. Bullshit. Okay, yes, here's my thing, my reason for why I'm here." And that was all I could do. And I ended up just throwing it away because I had no interest in editing it in the, for something for the long term. But for those of you that are into D&D from the standpoint that you like to world build, so you like to make characters and you don't have to have necessarily any crazy attachment to them. You like to design like weird cultures based around like magical phenomena or something like that. There's a fun freedom that you can have when you take something like NaNoWriMo. You take something where you have to essentially stick with something and plot it out.
Right.
Where you go, oh, right, I'm just going to essentially journal out a story. I think of that as being the mentality I go into. Okay. It's like I have the ideas here. Yeah. They'll look kind of nice. Like I'll be like, ooh, nice little flowchart, little stuff here.
Sort of bullet list of
or maybe a spider web or something, and I'll be like, ooh, that looks good. And then just completely vomit it all out onto the page here, just seeing how much I can do. And then once I don't have anything in my stomach, I'll just be like, oh, okay, now just go drink some water, go do it again, soon. Don't leave it there forever. That's, I think, the curse of writers is they have 95,000 unfinished things that they
and
thought about.
The reason why I ended up starting to do NaNoWriMo in the case of Battle Lines was because I was writing about on average maybe 300 to 500 words a day.
Dang.
Which is actually
double NaNoWriMo speed.
No. That's like a third or a fifth.
You said NaNoWriMo was 1,700 words a day.
Yeah, I was saying I did 300 to 500.
Oh, I thought you said 3,500.
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
this was the thing. So
Gotcha.
I plotted it out, and it was going to take me about 3 years to finish the first draft.
Oh.
Kind of a problem.
Yeah.
You know, so then I, set aside, and I ended up doing it for like October and November because that was what I needed in order to finish it, because it was longer than a 200-page book.
Right.
But the thing is that, like, that kind of a thing where it's going to take you forever to finish it, oftentimes you won't even get to the forever, right? Because even if it did take 3 years, and let's say you were dedicated with it, staying dedicated to something for a long time is actually a lot harder than just burning through it in a short period of time. Because then the end's in sight. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel approaching, right? And it's just, okay, I did a day. This day sucked, but you know what? That was 1 of 30. Right?
Yeah.
So now I only have to do 29 left. That's a number that I understand, right?
Right.
And I'm getting it, and I'm making real progress, right? The fact that I'm putting in all this work, I'm seeing it get less and less and less.
Yeah, you catch on to like second wind energy when you realize that you're able to plot the course with your basic levels of looking ahead. You don't have to conjure up all these worrisome scenarios about like, well, wait, what will I be doing in a year and a half? I don't know what I'll be doing. Like, will I even have the time for that? Will I be,
and to say nothing about editing post, because the thing is that like the difference when I first did NaNoWriMo versus when I did NaNoWriMo the next year for Battle Lines, right? Night and day. Now, still, it was first draft, so it was awful, but it was way better than when I first did NaNoWriMo, right? Like, so just the habit of getting you to the point where you write quickly, that causes you to improve quickly.
Ah, true.
Right? And so
true.
Yeah, because one of the things you also don't want to have happen, like let's say it takes you 3 years to write the first draft.
Yeah.
By the time you're done, you will be way better at the end than you were at the beginning. So now the beginning, or whatever parts, whatever order you decided to write it in, those parts that you wrote first are now crap compared to the stuff that you wrote later. What do you do? That's kind of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do it quickly, then there you go.
There's a mental discipline aspect of this that I feel like a lot of writers who are seasoned, they just kind of have built into them through the trials and tribulations of this experience. And so we look at people who will pump out a book a year or more, and there's this feeling of like, well, wait a minute, like obviously there's a team of people and stuff behind some of these guys, but there's also, I would say, this really nerve-wracking thing, especially I would say before you've written that first draft that you've finished, where you have so much identity wrapped up in this thing that you're really passionate about, right? Like, let's take anime, for instance. A lot of us are really passionate about anime. And it's not just that we're passionate about anime as a medium or a genre, whatever anime is. It's all it is. But we'll be really passionate about, like, those 3 anime, or those 5 anime, or what have you. And when we think about, like, what they are and what they represent and stuff, it can get so, like, big. It'd be something that's just like, it's so amazing. And then when you go into the creative side of things, you realize maybe there's not as much sheen behind it. I don't know. It's like a Oz thing where you kind of get to look behind the curtain and see that there's not as much magic behind it as it is just grueling hard work,
Right.
And
your tastes change over time too. Like,
right.
The kind of stuff I liked 3 years ago is nothing compared to what I like now.
Right. But back to the identity thing, so like when you're writing that thing, you have like this almost this force that's potentially holding you back from actually like being able to just give it all out because of how much you want it to be basically the grand thing, the wondrous achievement, this thing I've heard people say where everyone would love to be Tolkien, on like their first draft, and it's just like, you're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot if you think you're ever even going to be Tolkien in the slightest bit at any point in your life. So
and who knows? Maybe you could be. Now, granted, you'd be your own version of Tolkien.
Exactly.
But even then, look at what Tolkien's path was for Tolkien, right? Someone who was amazing at this, right? This is what he lived and breathed. his entire life was spent on a single universe. He spent 20 years, world building or whatever it was before he actually like put out the first book.
Yep.
And most of the stuff wouldn't even have ended up being published if not for his children.
Yep.
That basically took the stuff that he had and then finished it for him.
Yep.
20 years is a long time, mate.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Like, there's a decent chance, like, someone in chat is under the age of 20 here. So there's,
Right.
like, that's a lifetime that's a generation.
A dedicated lifetime. And it might not even be enough. Like, it wasn't even enough for Tolkien.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So, yeah. The complexity arises from layers of simplicity. I must have been missing the context for that, but I kind of get the principle of what you're saying, Mesker.
Yeah.
Just so long as you don't get caught up in the message. Do they prefer taking questions on by the end, or can we just spill it out anytime? Yeah, spill out your questions, Will Yari, anytime. We'll just take our time to see if it's a question that's, relevant for the discussion and then just, answer there. Yeah. Yeah.
For how terrifyingly long it's supposed to be, the bros will actually catch up to One Piece in about a year, less than it took them to end Hunter x Hunter and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Hence why we did the manga.
And that's actually one of the things that's kind of crazy. Going through the manga, it doesn't feel that long. Now, granted, right, this is, we're going through in a week what, took, 7 times or, or whatever, 2 months, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But the thing is that we are about a sixth of the way through the manga that we have.
Yes.
And I'm guessing now, if One Piece is about 2/3 done, and then there's whatever volumes we don't have that are beyond the 3 box sets, right?
Right.
Let's say what we have right now is about halfway through One Piece. Whoa. That doesn't make One Piece seem that long, because then it's basically just what we have done so far times 12. Now, granted, in an animated format, that's a ton. But as far as like the whole story of it, that actually seems like definitely an epic, but not that outlandishly huge.
Yeah, but that's a good way to translate that over to writing. Is that if you're in the standpoint where you look at some of your greatest works that inspire you and and shaped a lot of your identity, and not only that, but your passion for writing or reading or watching TV shows, manga, whatever, you break it down into its core components, and maybe you realize that those people that wrote that or dreamed that up, they're not gods, they're regular people that just put in a lot of work and had, their specific thing they were, really good at probably. So for like mangaka, there's the art that, like, I'm never going to be good at drawing. Right. Just see me trying to draw a circle.
I mean, maybe you could be, but you'd probably have to spend 7 or 8 years of dedicated time to get to the point.
And I have no passion to spend 7 or 8 years of dedicated time for that art. So, exactly.
Like another example of writing in the case of like the longer stories that don't end up or I don't know if it will end up ever getting finished.
Okay.
That I feel like is good motivation to do things like NaNoWriMo, to do basically smaller stories that you can and to write quickly, is the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss.
Oh,
Patrick Rothfuss has probably the best damn prose I have ever read. It is so much fun to read just for the sake of reading it. And I'm not talking even about the story, but just to read the poetry. It's amazing. It's fantastic. If you haven't read any of the Kingkiller Chronicles, the first one's Name of the Wind, the second one's A Wise Man's Fear. They are fantastic. They're great fantasy with good mechanics to the magic. One. Yeah, and you can sink your teeth into them because they're like 1,100 pages and 1,300 pages. But that third one, we've been waiting on it for like 8 years?
Yeah,
right?
It's never happening.
Who knows if it's ever going to happen? And the thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if it was because Rothfuss was like, you know what?
That's not sustainable.
Well, no. I'm not as interested in this kind of story anymore.
Oh,
maybe
sure.
I look back and I'm like, you know what? Because like the characters would probably be where I would say Rothfuss's work isn't as good as like his prose and things like that,
sure.
But like the mechanics of the magic and everything and the world, all that stuff, top notch, absolutely top notch. But he might be thinking, you know what? I don't know if I care as much about finishing this character's story as for maybe other stories that could be out there. But I've already set up so much, I should really finish it. but I don't really know how to finish it because I'm a different person now than 20 years ago or whatever it was when he started.
Yeah, seriously.
You know, and then it's like,
that's crazy.
What do you do? Hence why something like NaNoWriMo, which granted 50,000 words is not nearly as long as Patrick Rothfuss's stuff, right?
Mhm.
But getting something done in a quick amount of time so that you have what you're working with and then you just edit from there, which involves a lot of rewriting. It is incredibly helpful, not just for the sake of improving your writing capabilities, but also just for getting something done.
Yeah. How many people in chat right now are actually, you know, you want to write stories, like whatever the medium or format it is? Let me know, because I'm actually kind of curious about this, because I have a couple questions for you guys actually, so we can get some interaction here. That mental thing of people who spend so much time on something have a harder time quitting it. Yep, for sure. It's like replaying a CRPG after years when you're completely a different person.
Right.
It's actually kind of funny because I was going back to check on Dragon Age Origins after all these years of it being, you know, BioWare being a dead husk of a company compared to when it was bought out by EA and stuff. And I'm going back and I'm like, oh, wow, this Dragon Age game, it's been a while. Okay.
Yeah. Name of the Wind is one of the most beautiful books I've ever read, listened to, and it's low-key not even that good a story. Yep. And the thing is that I would not at all, like, yeah, I feel like it's like the equivalent of, like, if you were trying to make a sitcom nowadays and you were still using a laugh track, right? It's
yeah,
it might be this great idea for a sitcom and you've put a bunch of effort into it and stuff, but, you know, a laugh track doesn't really work anymore. You know, and then it's like, well, what do I do?
Wised up to that stupidity,
right? And then it's like, well, what do you do? You know, you have this thing that you've been working on for forever, and you kind of have to throw it away because it's not just what story you do, but it's when it comes out. Like I watched Toradora at the right point in my life for me to be like, yes, this is one of my favorite shows. Same with Haruhi and a bunch of others. But if I were to watch, say, Haruhi for the first time now, I wouldn't enjoy it as much as I did back then.
Okay, so there's about 10 it's about 10 people in here who are aspiring writers. Okay, cool.
Awesome.
So
way to go.
That's really awesome. Like, one of the questions I have as someone who is, like, I've never wanted to make the claim that I'm a good writer or anything. I love writing things, but I have never been able to sit down and actually finish a project. Is when you're writing something that you're passionate about, do you find that you are actually not as interested in the full process of the writing? It's an individual component of a story that you find really fun to write. Because I want to hear where people are at with that. This is awesome. Remember, Jacob knew already the world of One Punch Man as Caleb was reacting?
Yeah.
Were you writing your book during that time? If yes, how far in the webcomic were you? Wait, I'm confused.
I think they've got the names.
I think they've got the names mixed up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, with One Piece it was that Caleb had seen it and I hadn't.
Yeah.
And you haven't read any of the webcomic, have you? Yeah, no. He had just seen the anime before. But for a lot of the time of the channel, that was when I was writing Battle Lines.
Okay. Cool.
I do have an idea for a story.
Not sure yet if I want to write it yet. Kind of across those my life, so I got it the fish fry.
Yep,
Gotcha, Shy.
Totally.
Yep.
And that's one of the other things where it's like if you're at the point where you have time to write, then do it and get it done, because life happens and you don't know when, you know, things will.
Too real, I'm a Jew. I have like 24 to 30 book ideas planned, not counting ancient times Silmarillion-esque background lore, all of which happened because I dueled with pens and pencils and with Lego figures.
Yes, that's
actually real.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to hear a crazy story? Crazy story. It's 1999. I'm pretty sure that's when Bleach actually came out as a manga. It might have been a little bit earlier.
Anime started in 2004, I believe.
Yeah, so I think the manga was around
Maybe
that
it was
time.
Like 2001, 2002.
I must have caught on to the same energy as Tide Kubo.
I mean, everyone wanted to play with magic swords.
No. I wanted to make... Okay, this isn't Naruto, but I wanted there to be basically people with swords and superpowers that came from the types of swords that they had. And the thing is that I used Lego ninjas, but the thing was I didn't want them to be ninjas. I wanted them to be like bold warriors who basically
brave warriors of the sea.
Right. And I even tapped into a little bit into the spiritual guardian type thing with which is kind of more of a Jedi inspired thing. But
Yeah.
Bleach came out in 2001. Okay, so 2 years prior, I basically like made a not anime style thing in my head regarding.
Playing with those old Lego knights with the color coordinated like Power Ranger armor and stuff, but then like having the swords and all that stuff. It was great.
Okay, yeah, I feel that, Caleb. I usually base my stuff off of one specific idea and have trouble expanding the story beyond that idea. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel not just passion per se, but these stories exist trapped in my head, and I need to get them out as accurately as possible. Makes sense.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
I used to be an aspiring writer like you, Jacob. Then I became a part-time editor.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, that's a great way to be around stories a ton, because then you can see the process and things like that. It very helpful.
Okay. Constantly have ideas for stories. In a few days, I'm going into a trance and plan out everything to the point where opening the notes app on my phone crashes it. Then I get bored of that idea and I hate it and move on to another one without ever writing.
Yeah.
Oh, the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I think I do enjoy both. When I sit and I just write what I have in mind, I know where I want to get in the scene, so I just vomit words into the pages and I enjoy doing it, but I don't think too much about it. It just happens so I don't get stressed about it. Gotcha. Thinking about making characters and stories is always really enjoyable, but I never actually write. Okay.
Yeah.
For me, it's a bit different as someone who's planning on making a comic manga type story. So when it comes to writing it, write parts I think about, things like character arcs, interactions, and so on, but I have yet to officially start because I still have a lot to learn with art.
Gotcha.
Okay, because you're combining two creative mediums in there.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Oof, definitely not the full process. I get random plot ideas that sound really creative to me at the time, and so I get to writing once I write the part that motivated me. I lose interest after.
Sure.
Also reconfirming the good old editors are simply failed writers. That's
not necessarily.
That's sad, but I'd say that's not always true, because I would say in some ways editing is writing. Like it is.
Oh yeah.
Like it is. Well, like, because how much work the editors put into a project.
The editing stage is the hardest part. It's by far the hardest part. And when you think about like the stories that end up being super successful, that you know about, it's because not just of the creative mind behind it, but the editors. Like the prequels, the whole reason that those were the failure that they were was because George Lucas was George Lucas, right? So it was a bunch of yes men. He didn't have editors. Like for Monogatari or One Piece, like, do you think that Oda and Nishio Isin don't have rigorously insane editors that work with them to make the story what it is?
And those people are basically, they're co-writers. Yeah, exactly, Behanor. Yeah, they're basically partners in crime in this whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
They need to be as, like, not completely, but almost as, I would say, ingrained into what's going on, like the flow of everything, as the writer does. Like, they're probably a little bit ahead of the curve with designing ideas for, certain things, but that's mostly, I would say, imagination-based rather than actually, like, hard set into the story. But yeah, I like, okay, so there's a lot of people that resonate with me on that whole side of things there. I want to challenge all of you there who mentioned that they have the similar problem where it's the issue of you like writing this part of the story. Like, you like writing character interactions, you like writing character arcs, you like writing world building, lore, culture, what have you. Take that one part that you really like, okay? You really like. And write that for, like, a set amount of time. Like, set a goal, have it be 50 pages or what have you. Write basically that much of it. And then once you've hit that point where you're thinking about giving up, like you're thinking about not even finishing that, because you're going to hit that point where you're... Because my equivalent thing is, if I set out the goal, the 20% mark is where I'm about to give up every time.
I quit almost every day when I would do NaNoWriMo.
Yeah.
And that's why you need to have, like, people that'll high five you, when you finish each day.
Right.
And to have that end goal in sight.
Right. So I'm trying to cheat a system out here where I know you're going to basically think about failing, but when you hit that point, that first point of failing right there, if it's really early, then this might not work as well, but try to stick with it and set a goal and be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
But when you hit maybe that 10 to 20% mark and you've got still something in there, take one of the other aspects of stories that you're not as 100% passionate about or 100% like, ooh, I love that, and just kind of put it in there. Like, so for me, I really love writing characters. I also really love writing kind of world cultures and designing new races and stuff like that for fantasy worlds, and I love it. It's good fun, and it fits pretty well with DMing and stuff like that. So I want to do that as well. But that does not make a book. That does not make a story. It does not sound fun. It does not. It is not actually interesting to read. It is a whole bunch of gobbledygook garbage.
Yep.
So what I'm thinking of doing here is taking something like the world building stuff and just start building the world. Just start doing it. Then anytime I think about quitting, I write a character. I don't have any care or tell what have you where they're going in this world or anything. But it's just something to break up the monotony of I'm not good at this, I'm never going to be good at this, all the negative self-talk and stuff like that, and just do something that's slightly different and just kind of bloop, do it. And then once you've done that, then you can go back and do the finish the original part that you had set for the goal. But you have to do that thing in the break part there. Those are both things that you're committing to. So you basically quit one part of the storytelling writing process
to go on to the other part.
But then once you've done only one iota of it, one piece of it, you have to immediately
just enough
then
to
go
get
back.
that little bit of an endorphin rush. Yeah.
Right. And let me know if it works out for you. Let me know if it's a dumb idea or if it's a weird idea or if it's like, oh my god, that actually kind of helped, because I'm going to try something similar to that. My thing right now is I've been designing a map with a world and places and locations and all that stuff. And then every once in a while, when I'm like, I don't actually want to do this at all, I'm like, nope, make a character. So that's basically like, nope. I block myself from, checking out of, whatever imagination, story creative juice stage I'm in. I'm not making sense with my words here, but then just go and write a stupid character.
Yeah.
Nothing really genius or anything about it. Just put one in there, save it, put it in its little folder with all the other dumb characters, and go back the next day, do it again.
And by the way, if there is anyone watching right now that is planning on doing NaNoWriMo, let us know, because whether it's through actually keeping each other accountable and being like, all right, we did the first day, we did the second day, all that stuff, or whether it's just knowing that there's other people out there struggling through the same crap as you, misery loves company. So let us know.
We missed a lot of messages up here.
Yeah, there's some good ones in here.
Ooh, Jad the Mad. I've written over one 2,600 word short story. Very cool. My biggest struggles are actually getting the words down on paper because of my painfully slow writing speed, and generally figuring out which words to use in sentences. Though I've had this sprawling fantasy world rolling around my head in notes for about 5 years, it started out as Ruby fan lore.
Yeah,
for sure. Ultimately, I want to make it a webcomic or something because my mind just works better with images than words. Okay, do the thing I was talking about where you don't even make words good. You just, the thing happened, and then the other thing happened, and then this happened, and then you keep going, and then you keep going.
And if you're wanting it to be a webcomic, then also do that with drawing.
Right.
Which I don't even know what that'd be like, because I don't draw. But because the thing is that whenever you're talking about making a finished artwork, for people to enjoy, it is a product of your own skill with using that medium and everything. So the more you can grind out things for that medium, the better your end product will be.
Yeah.
And if you have to just listen to music on repeat and just start vomiting words or vomiting pictures out, do it.
Yeah. A perv wrote something cool here. Something that kind of helps me writing is the fact that I'm a lucid dreamer, and I can make my brain think of stories when I sleep. So whenever I dream, it's either about a story I'm already thinking about, and I improve it as I sleep, or I think of something original, and the problem with this is that I have to wake up and write it, otherwise I might forget it. Yes.
That's pretty awesome.
Holding an imagination, creative dream journal thing
Super helpful.
nearby is extremely helpful. And in some ways, you don't really want it to be your phone.
Oh.
As someone who used to use my phone for this, it doesn't really
it's different.
work.
Yeah, because you don't actually see it and feel it and things like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's a psychological aspect of it. Marianne 7, I'm not a writer. I've done a couple short stories and that's it, but I'm both interested in illustrating. I'd like to maybe do comics. It would maybe feel better if someone else did the writing, though, and editorial design, which I'm learning a lot about in uni. I hope to keep working on that, and I truly admire people who can create such wonderful stories. Writing a full story or even starting is already a big achievement, and that's how you'll get better. Well said.
Yep.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
So how many stories did you write? Are you proud of them? How much? Behanort, I would say 0. That's kind of my point, is that, like, I never finished a story.
Which again is why NaNoWriMo is so important.
Yeah.
Like, because like before Battle Lines and even before the first NaNoWriMo, I had plenty of stories. Some of them I would say are actually, quite good story ideas that I'm sort of keeping logged away in my head for later in case I want to use them. But the thing is, because I was thinking that it had to be perfect on the first draft, I would be editing and writing at the same time. I'd maybe get 5 or 6 chapters in before I would quit. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd get interested in some new idea, and then I'd leave this one behind, and I would never get anywhere. It was awful.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, when do you block yourself? When do you actually stop? What demotivates you? It's quite personal. Are you talking about us specifically, or are you talking about in the theoretical sense for AO? Because I get what you're I kind of get what you're asking here, but I don't know how literal the questions are.
For me, something that does demotivate can make me unmotivated is when I tell people about it and then they encourage me too soon. This sounds weird, but it's the idea that basically I get to a point where I'm relying on other people in order to do the thing, but I don't actually have something substantive so that the encouragement feels like I earned it, and then I'm basically working like I feel like I have a debt in that I can't, even when I actually do the thing, that I won't be able to get any the same kind of encouragement from the people because I'm just doing what I set out to do, and then it's, oh cool, you did the thing. Mm-hmm. And then like I need to keep it so that I'm getting the encouragement from myself as much as possible, so that when I do all those little like the daily do's and stuff that people don't see when they look at the finished product, that I'm keeping myself motivated and encouraged that way.
Yeah. I'm gonna choose a poor habit of mine, but write too many outlines of stories rather than actually starting the stories themselves. So many characters only have prototype names, e.g. Black Knight, Blue Knight, Mentor, Nephew, Old One from Beyond, etc. Right now I'm setting up background lore for the first books that takes place thousands of years later, which in my opinion need this lore to help set up Zawardo. Then I'll actually sit down and write the books. I'm lazy. This is, I would say, the trap of, I would say, both doing the right thing and the wrong thing, because there's no real wrong thing as long as you're writing, but it's the right thing of, I'd say, not caring about the names of your characters at this point.
Yeah, don't just go into analysis paralysis.
Prototype, just Black Knight, Blue Knight, Mentor, Nephew, Old One. Cool, those are templates right there. But then is the thing of you're like, but what I actually like writing is background lore, which is completely like, not really relevant for the story conflict
and
necessarily.
You need to finish.
Yep.
You need to finish.
And background lore, by its own nature, doesn't finish. It just is.
Right.
You can always add more. Mm-hmm. Whereas a story has a limited amount of plot, conflict, acts, resolutions, climaxes, and stuff like that. So it has to end at some point.
Yeah, self-motivation tends to work better in the long run.
It was about what demotivates and makes you stop writing for it. For me, it is definitely any time I go into editing mode too early.
Yeah, I was actually just about to say that.
Yeah, it's any time I get really self-critical. And when I say self-critical, I mean the good self-critical even. Like the kind where you go, I should use a better word for that. Nope. Yeah. Nope. You don't make it better. Yeah. You do not make it better. Like, the minute I am in a flow, and I'll tell you, this is why I know that the math part of this works out for NaNoWriMo, even though I haven't done it, is that when you get into a flow, you'll just vomit out 5,000 words in a sitting, and you'll be like, that was garbage. And the first thing you do is you go back and you start clipping out this here, this there, this there, this there. And it's like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? You just taught yourself in your brain that writing badly is not a good thing.
Right.
Which means you will not write until you're good, which will never happen because you don't write.
Like,
it's a...
Like, do you think
asinine.
When Michelangelo sculpted David, did he go every cubic inch to make it perfectly like the finished product of David? Or did he chisel out a rough outline of something that looked like a dude, right? And then slowly chisel away more. You know, like, that's how you do it.
And every once in a while, like, going back and being like, yeah, that's crap. Okay, and then going back to it.
Right.
Nope, still crap. Still crap.
Yeah, so, yep. Yeah. It's,
how many drafts did Battle Lines have?
Like 6 or 7?
6 or 7, y'all.
Yeah.
6 or 7.
Mm-hmm. And the second draft was almost 100% rewrite.
Oh, that's the other thing. How many 100% rewrites were there? Because there was another one, I think, after that, right?
Yeah.
So
I think there were 2 almost complete rewrites.
2.
And the thing is, so yeah,
that just blows my mind.
Yeah,
that would hurt. Like, you know that headache spot right here above the eye?
Yep.
That would be what
it took years off my life. Like, there's a reason why I haven't started another book just yet. And this is like, NaNoWriMo this year is like me gearing up to be like, all right, let's do this again. You know, and this time,
oh, here we go again.
yeah. Because it's rough. Yeah. And that is why the prep is so important. Mm-hmm. Guys, that is why the prep is ridiculously important. Because the thing is, if I had just done some better prep, if I had, like, say, talked to an editor beforehand and been like, all right, let's come up with an outline before I start writing the thing or whatever, I still probably would have had to, you know, explore the characters and things like that. But I might have been able to just completely bypass one of those drafts. Because a lot of the stuff was, like, pretty basic stuff. You can't have alternating timelines and flashbacks with every chapter with rotating character perspectives across 6 characters in a single book. No. You know, don't do it, right? There you go. Just from that alone, regardless of all the other stuff that needed to be changed, I had to basically rewrite the book. Yeah. So, as much prep time beforehand as you can, but no more than that, right? Get the general structure and outline and things like that, and then figure out all the details as you go.
Right. The main point that I think I can add to that, because I have no real experience with that, is that once you've finished your outline, you're done. You're in writing mode now.
Right.
Go write until you finish the draft, and do not touch the outline until that's done.
Well, okay, I might actually say that doing an edit or 2 on the outline might save you a lot of pain and suffering. But the thing is not for details, just for, like, what kind of story am I telling? When I go through the outline,
right?
Does it stay on track with that holistic vision for the story?
Right. But what that would mean is that if, say, you got through 50% of it and you realized you wanted to slightly add in, like, this genre or what have you, you wouldn't go back to that point in 25% and edit that so that it fits in the thing before you had finished the draft. That would just be something where, you know, okay, I'm going to have to go back at a future draft iteration and change that at some point.
Yeah.
Because it'd be better for you to finish a bad draft that didn't fit perfectly with the outline than to never finish the first draft because you kept changing the outline.
For the first draft of Battle Lines, there was a point where I realized that the way that I had written the characters, I had an outline for the story, and I was like, the way the characters are written, it doesn't make sense for this to happen. So I was like, okay, assume that there's stuff that's going to be added in on the next draft that adds in all of the build up for things like this, right? And then have this happen, and then there you go, right? And there's a very noticeable, like, oh yeah, it's a pretty, story, blah, 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 goes along, and it's, it's making a good amount of sense. And then right here, it's like, refer to all those things that didn't happen, like, it's like, whoa, but it's like, okay, whatever, I'll do that on the next draft. But the thing is that one of the worst things, like, I needed to do that because it would have been absolute suicide to say, all right, because I know that this needs to be here, I'm going to now stop and not finish the first draft and go back and try and add all that stuff in before finishing the first draft. No,
Don't do
do
that.
not do that. Do not do that.
Jed the Mad, thank you so much for the 100 bits. In order for Michelangelo to sculpt David, he had to sculpt a PS1 character model first.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, exactly. Blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Blocks. SOS TED Talk, oh my gosh. Oh, see you later, Perv. Have a good one.
Take care.
Have a good one. So if you're starting out with no prep, just the idea, what constitutes the prep necessarily to write a short story in a month, you would say?
Yeah, so
what are those big outline things
right.
that you would encourage someone to make sure they have nailed down so that they don't get bogged down in the details, but that they feel like they have sufficient big picture stuff in order to actually be prepped sufficiently?
Yeah, assuming like I already have a story for NaNoWriMo, and I'm hashing out the details and the characters and things like that. But let's say I was starting from scratch, because that did happen. Just like a couple days ago, I realized, nope, I can't do a pirate story. I need to do something else, because there was something where I was like, okay, this is truly like what will seem like a worthwhile effort, because it's going to be hard. So you want it to be something that you really want to write.
Yep.
You know, something that you desperately need to write.
Right.
Once you have that, figure out what it most closely matches up with in like stories that you've seen, right? And the thing is that it should closely match up, because don't try and invent a new genre, because what that usually is it's a mishmash of 10 different genres, and then it's just a vomit pile. You don't want that. Have the skeleton be clean, so that way you can vomit into the skeleton and then figure out how to fix it up so that it's dressed up and looks good.
I
right?
like it.
So
I like it.
So in the case of say like let's say it was going to be a fantasy adventure, right? Okay, fantasy adventure. All right. So what kind of fantasy adventures can we work with here? All right. Well, there's Hero's Journey. Okay, cool. Do I want this to be sort of a chosen one, good versus evil kind of a thing, or do I want it to be sort of a maybe more of just a straight coming of age, deal where it's the finding out where they came from and who they're going to be and who's their father and all that stuff, right? Okay, cool. Yeah, they're going to save the damsel in distress. Maybe that's what it is, right?
Right.
All right, I have that. What are the things that can make that story actually feel like a good story, especially since it's probably something that like, okay, it's been done before? Well, make it be about them learning that it's not just about their magical capabilities, right? Learning to really depend on themselves and their own true inner strength, right? And basically figure out some themes and stuff that it's going to revolve around, and then figure out what the motifs for that are, and or maybe not the motifs, that can come later, but then figuring out what the characters are that will all play along that theme, and then basically figure out ideally maximum of 3, maybe 4, but really 2 ideally, of who the 2 main characters are, who the main character is, and then who's the other main character that they're going to be interacting with. This can be the antagonist or their best friend or whatever, and then basically figure out exactly what the main conflict of the story is and how they all must be closely tied to that.
Gotcha.
And then there you go.
Then you're done.
Yeah, and then you're basically done. And then just figure out, get to know the characters more.
But that's in your writing.
Well, no, I would do that before the writing. So,
okay.
So basically,
keep going with prep stuff.
So then I would basically say, all right, write the characters. What's their name? Where did they grow up? All things like that.
Plot out their arc.
Okay. And then also plot out the conflict arc, right? So if it's some action adventure, it's like, okay, there's going to be this many
we gotta take the thing here.
Yeah, exactly. We got to take the thing here, right? Okay, right. There's going to be 3 major battles over the course of that, with sort of like an introductory little battle that'll show like, okay, we're going into action. The heroes leaving their home village or something like that. And then that's basically all I would do as far as the structure of the outline of the story. But other than like the skeleton of the story, I would put everything into getting to know the characters. And
because there's so few of them.
Because there's so few of them. Yeah, you want to know them well.
Right, because you can throw in other characters as needed, but like
right, that are just tertiary characters or whatever.
These are the only ones that really matter in the first draft for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So Okay, so what I TLDR from this is that in order to properly set up a short story that you could write in a month, is you need to basically get down not just what kind of story you're going to tell to help you find some narrative beats for said story, relate that story to something else that you know of and have consumed. So therefore you're going to be maybe using a little bit of their
borrowing a lot of the skeleton,
so that you don't have to build up bones from the calcium ground level. And you know,
oh yeah, and if you're talking about a world, if you're wanting to have your own like made up world, I would say then the number of characters you need to have in the story is reduced by 1. The number of main characters, because then the world is essentially a character.
That's true.
Especially if you have anything like magic or things like that, right? Because
it's just extra time,
right? And you don't want to have it just be a generic, oh, this is a D&D world. Like in some cases, if you're being meta with it, you can do that. But in my mind, if you're going to do that, you might as well make it a full character, and dedicate time to it as you would a character.
Okay, so then once we've got that set up, the main thing would be plot out a basic conflict outline, and then your number of characters, i.e. 2 to 3, because you need someone to interact with, so that there can be actually dialogue. So there needs to be a minimum 2. This is important to everybody.
Right.
Single character, 1 things are...
You can do it,
but wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, it is much better if you have a second character. And the thing is, when I say characters, I don't mean that those are the only people in the story. I'm saying that those are the only people that we really get to know in the story. So having there be multiple, and having it be where they are very closely connected, whether it's through a positive or negative relationship, so that way you can get those things to happen.
Amadou actually did a pretty good one. TLDR: 1. Basic ideas and adjustable outline. 2. Near endless flow of word vomit. 3. Edit, rewrite, and polishing. 4. Scrap everything. Oh my god, that's actually happened though.
Yeah,
that's actually happened.
Oh, also, 2 Steps from Hell music helps like a lot. Yes, it does.
That's funny. Who said that? Who said that?
It was Amadou.
Where?
Yeah, there. TSFH.
Oh yes.
Yeah, because basically it's epic orchestra music with no words, because like personally words can be distracting for me.
Trailer music.
And then you loop it. Yeah, it's trailer music, and then you just feel in an epic mood, and you're like, okay, all right, let's just write stuff. Yeah. When did this turn into a necromancy stream? Would the writing be easier if I first try to write something as a visual medium and then try to write it as a novel? Or is writing a visual medium harder than non-visual storytelling? What is the difference? Does it just vary from person to person? Okay, so when you're dealing with visual mediums, I am not very experienced with actually creating visual mediums, just analyzing them. But I would say with a visual medium, you would want to even more so write the story of it and then draw it. You might have some, like, think about maybe the designs for inspiration, but I wouldn't draw them until you've actually written everything, because drawing takes even more time than writing. Yeah, and another thing is no one's gonna edit your art. Yeah. Like, your art is your art. If anything, people might give you critique it and things like that. But with the writing process, this is something that you need to have a brain training session in order to actually be able to stick with it for the future, like grand stuff. I would assume on some level that a visual medium makes it somewhat easier, but I wouldn't know how. Yeah. From Freyo, if you have a month's time to create an outline in general draft, a month's time to create an outline in general draft, oh boy. I'd suggest to first think about the economic aspect, meaning who's your target audience, and go from there. That can help a lot too. That can. If you're doing a teenage high school rom-com, that can give you a lot of info about what kind of story to write. Remember, the plot or story is often a character too, interacting with the others and changing depending on their actions. That is very true. Yeah, a lot of what's in nowadays with books and stuff is just marketing. Well, and also when you think, like, what Freyo said about the plot and everything being a plot and story being a character too, that is very, very true. That's why a lot of times the best character study stories don't have much of a plot. Like think like The Last of Us. It's an escort mission, right? There you go. And you haven't played The Last of Us.
Yeah, I was like, I have no way to confirm or deny.
But basically, you know, where it's like, okay, here's a thing, here's a MacGuffin, here's a whatever, where it's basically like, yeah, we checked that box on the story and the conflict and everything. Now let's get to the characters.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. I'm sure you might have been asked this before, but what are some of your favorite books, authors, or that really inspire you?
George R. R. Martin, Pierce Brown, G.K. Chesterton. He's an old one, but like old, you know, British author. He's got some fun stuff.
Yeah, I am not as well read. I really, really was like had my life changed by Tolkien, and in a really crazy way, I always found the worlds like fascinating when I was younger, and then as I grew up, I realized that a lot of the books that I liked growing up, I liked them for the worlds, and those are what got me into the whole idea of imagining, you know, some universe to create or what have you. But it was the stories that usually ended up being visual mediums via TV shows or what have you, where the characters were what began to stand out for me. And that's kind of in a lot of ways something that the channel has helped with as well. So I don't have as many books that I recommend nowadays because I don't look back on them as much with
of them as them being like
so great. Yeah. In some ways, a lot of the books that I look back on and go, oh yeah, that is a book that is noteworthy that people should check out. It is more of a thing of where I'm not even thinking about the individual writing bits. I'm talking about how it moved me and shaped my perspective on what stories can or can't be.
Sure.
So an example for this is The Count of Monte Cristo. The Count of Monte Cristo is not a good book. Let me just put this out there. The Count of Monte Cristo was originally a newspaper TV show, basically.
Yep.
And people would basically get soap opera level little mini write-ins in the French newspaper by Alexandre Dumas, and it would basically like tease people along for an infinite story. That's why the unabridged Count of Monte Cristo is longer.
Pages
it's
long.
Longer than the Bible, basically. It's a ridiculously big story. Needlessly
yeah.
in most cases. There are a lot of crazy plot lines that just go all over the place. But in terms of what it is as a monument to storytelling, like reading it once, I would say is very much recommended, because you can then see how someone crafts these characters that have these really strange, complex motivations. And then another book that I would say just nailed down the aspect of what the emotional journey of a coming-of-age story for a dog owner is like. Someone who has only ever really had a dog in our house once at any given point, and that was a dog sitting thing for my aunt and uncle when they were in law school, is Where the Red Fern Grows. And that book and movie's okay. It's okay. But the book, Where the Red Fern Grows, is some feels.
One other thing. Now this will either come across as like cheesy or pretentious. I'm not sure which. But
those are two very interesting things. I'm ready for this one. What is it going to be?
But Dickens and Shakespeare.
Oh, yeah.
Because in the case of Dickens, a lot of the stuff that he did is like, now there's things like was it Tale of Two Cities the really big one? I can't remember. Well,
Tale of Two Cities was huge.
Yeah, Tale of Two Cities was a huge
but
one.
I don't know if it was biggest book.
Yeah, but the thing is that there's like, when you think of something like, say, Christmas Carol, right? That is a very short book, but it's a great book, right? And it's classic. And the thing is, as far as for something like NaNoWriMo, that's about the size that you'd get. And if you look at the stories that have stood the test of time, like Count of Monte Cristo,
Right. Leave
Oh
it to
my God.
Amaju to just throw in the randomest comments.
Dickens and Shakespeare, not Dickens,
Yeah.
Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Anyways, those can give you a lot of insight as for more of the basic stuff, because while a lot of the techniques and specifics are dated and would not work today,
Oh yeah.
the structure of these stories does a lot. Like it can be analyzed to death. Yeah.
Princess Grimoire. My Nano project is really outside my normal wheelhouse. It's a rom-com mystery versus my go-to apocalyptic high fantasy. Gotcha. So you usually write apocalyptic high fantasy,
Okay.
but you're writing a rom-com mystery. So any advice for overcoming the urge to insert heavy dark themes in a piece that's meant to have a lighter tone?
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't have a balanced perspective on this at all.
I don't have any advice as for how you would do that. Just don't do that. Like one of the things that I would do, for writing,
man.
when I would have to write, I would basically find anime tracks that would match the mood of what I was trying to write to.
Sure.
So if I needed to write something
idea.
super depressing where someone had lost all sense of who they are and all anchors and everything, then I would listen to like World of Midnight from Black Lagoon, right?
Nice.
It wasn't fun. But then if I wanted to do something like positive or something, you know, like maybe really hype, then I might listen to like the Your Lie in April opening or something like that, you know, or something really emotional, and I might listen to Lost My Pieces. So for something that's like a rom-com mystery, listen to fun music, you know, that is lighthearted and not, you know, Leaves from the Vine or something like that.
I would say as a thing that helps me with regards to keeping the storyline along a specific theme is I'm kind of bad with keeping themes on track. So I just tried to make there be less of them. So the less themes there are, meaning that you're not trying to hit like 12 themes all at once, you know, having there be 2 or 3 themes keeps you on track where everything has to funnel down that almost narrow road. But if you make those themes something that are tied very integrally to all the characters, so you can cut away maybe some of the chaff characters, since you're writing a first draft, maybe sticking with Jacob's thing of having there be, you know, 3 or 4 characters, maybe you could get a good rom-com mystery thing out of that.
Yeah.
Obviously there's going to be some, you know, characters with names that aren't really that important on the sidelines, but have their arcs, motivations, and all that be very heavily tied to the theme so they can't accidentally stray out of it. Because then you can still have stuff in the background or on the side that's there that reminds people that these dark things exist, like the themes of what was the specific theme? Heavy dark themes. Okay, have those things be there but not tied to the main characters, so they're you know, something that's in the background, and maybe you'll find that's a way that scratches the itch of writing them in without actually having it be tied to the main plot. So if anything, people will be like, oh, there was some, you know, there's some stuff that's going on in the world that kind of makes the lighter themes actually feel a little bit more accentuated because they're focusing on those as the main cast, whereas the outside world has this
also,
you know, other stuff going on.
I don't know if you're doing this for NaNoWriMo or not, but if you are, well, I mean, NaNoWriMo is right around the corner, so it's not much time to prep. But something that I loved for the purposes of rom-com was, I mean, Toradora. But the thing is, the light novel of Toradora, I would say, actually works really well as just a light novel for the first one. Maybe not as much for the ones after that, but the thing is that, like, usually I don't think that about light novels. I think that, like, the anime adaptation usually fixes a lot of the issues with the light novels. But in the case of Toradora, maybe check out the first light novel. It's got a very, very concise and, like, good beginning and ending point. So maybe you'll get something from that. It's not a mystery, but as far as how to handle the characters in a short amount of time for a romance, could help.
Wow, Amaju. From a scale on cute to Jacob U, like Komi head pat to adult attack. Where should the stories feel thee? Oh
well,
gosh.
you want to figure that out beforehand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any tips for writing time travel?
Ooh, make specifically traveling backwards through time. Make the time travel be something that is not a way to solve a plot conflict, but to solve a character conflict.
Yes.
So the thing is,
that's
like,
very different
because the thing is that if time travel is used to solve a plot problem, someone died or something like that, right? You know, or whatever. Well, someone died, that can be a character conflict, but you know, if it's a puzzle that's being solved through time travel, then it feels like a Deus Ex Machina ass-pull kind of a thing. And you can try and get around that with mechanics for the time travel, but even so. Whereas if it's a character conflict that's being resolved, then it's magic. Then it's the manifestations of the strongest and innermost desires of the characters that cause them to do something crazy like going through time. There are plenty of anime that I feel like go into this. A lot of them I don't want to mention because it spoils things for them.
That's true.
But like Steins Gate, it's not a spoiler that it has time travel, and it has the mechanics, and it's based around a character conflict, so that's a really good one for it. Groundhog's Day is another great one for time travel and the focusing on the character aspect of it.
Because a lot of time travel stuff, and I would say don't do this. And this is the thing with time travel, I would say, is don't have time travel be a thing that is, you know, well, just for simplicity's sake, a power that a person has. Just don't do that. Oh. And don't do the Doctor Who thing either, where it's the, yes, we have gone to a place. It's basically the isekai boring version, where you're transported to the past, and it's just people from the future in the past kind of thing. Have it be a thing that's an actual portion of the story if you're actually going to, in my opinion, run the risk of ruining your story completely by bringing time travel into it.
Right.
Like, I get excited when people put time travel into it, but it is as a serialized story kind of thing. It's basically like playing with thermonuclear weapons.
Right. Decide
in the Stone Age, you know.
Decide if you want your story to be about time travel or whether you want it to have time travel.
Yeah,
because those are two very different things. And it's very hard to make time travel not take over the entire rest of the story.
Exactly.
Don't do it like Heroes.
Yeah, Heroes. God, this was too funny. I had to read this here. Ferreo says, an isekai idea. Caleb reincarnates as a lolly demon lord, laugh and all, and tries to use modern knowledge to solve the demon world economic crisis. At the same time, Jacob reincarnates as the harem-centered hero until he realizes the demon lord is making sense and joins her. I'm like, Jacob, that's how we started the channel, right? Like, Jacob's all like, ladies, like, come on, Jacob. And I'm like, Jacob, wait.
For some reason, I feel like this is the reverse.
Oh, it might be. Oh my God, who knows? Or if the characters does solve a plot problem with time travel, make that butterfly into a bigger problem to solve.
Exactly, because then it's because I feel like with time travel, when you do stuff like that, what that turns into is it's the character issue that they want an easy solution to all their problems, right? That they can't deal with consequences. And then the poetic, resolution to that is that by trying to avoid it, it gets way worse, and then they have to basically try and fix everything. Clean up for their mistakes, if you will.
Have a good one, Marianne. See you
see
later. Thank you for joining us. Wait, the SOS channel starts a reverse isekai? Ferreo proposes an isekai idea. Caleb, we already did that. Well, no, it's just funny because the whole incarnation of the channel was a dumb idea that was like, yeah, let's do that, and then Andrew G24, thank you so much for the follow, and Sugartastic M Loco, thank you so much for the follow as well.
Would Medros be an incel? Wow. Also, Jacob, do you plan to do
how do you come up with these
on Battle Line?
How do you come up with these ridiculous
not really in an
questions?
official sense, but yeah. Oh man. Idros is an incel. I love it.
5 stages of grief through time travel, where the character finally accepts the bad things that happened.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Yep.
That's good. I like it.
Or maybe
like
you do time travel, but you don't realize it because maybe the antagonist time traveled back in time to basically stop their former self because they realize that the fatal flaw of the hero is going to cause all these issues, and then, you know, there you go. I mean, you could do something like that.
You just big-brained a really cool idea, and I didn't get it.
No, I'm actually talking about a specific show.
Anime?
No, I'm talking about a specific anime, but I don't want to say the name of the anime so that the twist isn't spoiled. Has
he seen that I haven't?
No, you've seen this anime.
Oh.
Where the main character is trying to do something, and then yeah. So yeah,
I'm dumb. I was thinking of antagonists too harshly there.
If you can, like, I feel like with time travel, you either want to do it where it's introduced at the very beginning, or like something that's introduced way late as like a big twist. And if you do the twist, you want it to be a character-focused twist.
Yeah, not a plot solve.
Not a plot solve twist.
Because then people cry.
Right.
You know,
ideally,
Deus Ex Machina.
Ideally,
you know?
If you can make it be something that explains a current conflict, and that it's the result of some wish to change the fabric of the universe, basically, because that's what time travel is, then you have a lot of juice to work with there.
Yes, I know, Psychronia. That's what I was thinking. The villain time traveling back to stop themselves is a great idea. So much self-reflection potential there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then you already have the immediate parallel between the hero and the villain, right? And in the end, it's not a plot conflict problem, because it still resolves down to, what will you decide?
Right. You know how it's going to end.
Right.
In terms of the plot.
Change anything?
Does it change anything? Exactly. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we already know that Jacob and Caleb are the twin heads of a tentacle monster from another plane of existence. So are we really surprised that it's a reverse isekai? Shh.
Oh boy.
Jad.
No.
We don't want to scare the regular people. Oh my gosh. If you think about it, YouTubing is an isekai.
I mean, kind of.
It's kind of true. I should have been more clear. How to avoid going to the dark version where my protagonist is a ghost trying to solve her own murder while trying to help out the only person who can see her win over the guy she's been dating.
Wait, okay, that's very specific.
Hold on. Yeah, let's go into this. So, you have a person that's died, and they, in their ghost form, is trying to solve the murder as the protagonist. The only person that they're able to connect with and help out is the person who...
Right. So one of the things that I think is very interesting
helping her with the guy that she's dating.
Right. She's trying to
before she died. So that's 3 characters. There's the guy she's dating, there's the main character, and there's the friend who's the liaison to the living world.
So there's 2 separate conflicts here.
Yeah.
There's the mystery, and then there's the romance. And I would say you need to find out what the end conflict for each of those is, because when it's something where it's someone that she already dated and she's trying to help set up her friend for it, because the set up your friend with somebody that you like is one thing, but when it's, I was already with this person, then is the conflict going to be her letting go? Because that seems like less of a romance.
I would say that the dark part of it is more along the emotional, just acceptance of
it almost seems like a drama / character study, and especially in this setup, that feels like something that's different than a romance in a slight way, but an important way. So and if you can look at ways to do the conflicts in parallel as much as possible, so that way you don't have to worry about setting up multiple characters for multiple things and all that stuff. I don't know, that's tough. And if you could only have one conflict resolved at the end of like a 200-page length story, which one would you want it to be? Not that you couldn't do both, but figure out which one's the most important.
Another thing you should try doing is to stick to what you were doing and realize when you started doing something else. This discussion about time travel started as how to stop being a demotivation of writing a story. Well, I mean, it's mostly just us responding to Twitch chat. So, So there's no real single narrative thing that we're going on here. But that is a good point, though. The thing I hate about time travel stories is that when anything changes in the current timeline, it feels like you have now entered an alternate universe where you can't trust that people have the same memories as they used to have.
Yes, and time travel can seriously muck with character development, which is why if you can make it be something where the time travel has already happened, and then you discover it, then all kinds of things, you don't have to mess up anything, right? You can basically just give a quick flash of this is how things were before they time traveled.
Like, isn't that the plot of that really dumb anime that a lot of people really like? It's like a memory mix-up, time reversal thing, the game-winning thing with the yandere girl.
Oh, okay, so spoiler alert for Mirai Nikki.
Yes.
But okay, no, but this is a great point.
This is a great point.
This is a great point. Spoiler alert for Mirai Nikki. If you haven't seen it yet, then
we're doing this as the spoiler thing.
Yeah, he'll lower his hand when the spoilers are over.
Just plug your ears or mute the stream.
But okay, here's the thing. I don't like Mirai Nikki. I really hate it. But one of the best things that they did was involving time travel. And it was something where the time travel was something that you discovered, not something that happened in the show. And it was that the yandere character, the reason they were a yandere is because they're time traveling. They lived through this already. All of these people should be dead. This universe shouldn't exist. Therefore, they have no problem killing people because they're planning to solve everything with time travel anyway. Very engaging. I absolutely loved it, right? They didn't have to worry about changing character development or things like that for any of the other characters. Not that there really was any in the case of Mirai Nikki, because it's the time travel already happened, and then basically you're able to give an incredibly strong emotional drive for the character that did the time travel, because there was something that was so deeply disturbed in their world that they rewrote time, right? They changed the fabric of reality so that they could, in this case, see the person that they loved again.
And scene. So spoilers are over there. But that is something that I feel like is a cool concept. And then obviously it failed in execution.
But the thing is, it wasn't on the spoilery part that we mentioned. That wasn't where it failed. It was on all the stuff surrounding it.
So it ends up being less about the destination and the journey, just not really handling its job well.
If you can there are plenty of stories out there where the time travel is a reveal of something that already happened, then rather than something that is going to be used in the future. It is incredibly powerful. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I think we're gonna start wrapping things up here. We'll be probably for another 5 minutes or so. We are not familiar with the Dark Souls lore timeline. No. Romance should feel like a mystery where you don't know how it'll play out. Otherwise, it feels like an entire book of just get a room already. Well, I don't fully agree. I think I know what you mean in that there should be some dramatic tension in your romance story before there is the capitulation of said romance. But I would say, if you think about what the romance genre has kind of become, that might be kind of what it is. But I actually kind of prefer to have a little bit of before and after, happily ever after. Happily ever after.
Well,
I like actually seeing people in romance together when they're having that, they're having that story there.
And the other thing I will say, because I get that the mystery aspect is very much important, but in something like, say, Toradora, I would say it's a great example of potentially maybe what you hate about romance, but of how it can be done well, because through narration, basically, it's made very clear at the beginning of the
first
show.
Episode.
The very first scene is basically stating these two people are going to end up together, right? But then you get to see their journey because romance isn't just about the fact of will they end up together. It's about the fact of what growth and journey will they go on to the point where it makes sense for them to end up together. To where they can be humble enough to actually, be vulnerable with the other person about, this part of themselves, and things like that.
In some ways, I don't like the meta aspect of romance, which is that people will end up together. because that's not actually that realistic in the majority of parts. I actually like it when it's the thing of, dude, these characters, I really like them. I hope they get happiness. It's not a thing of, I hope these characters get up together. I hope they find like their happy ending, so to speak.
Sure.
And then when you get to see relationships blossom from that, and then good things come from it, you're like, yes. And then I like to see still a little bit of where we actually get some drama resulting from what happens immediately after that. I know that that's not necessarily what the market wants necessarily, like the average consumer wants. But I would personally prefer to have things post romantic, declarations, which a lot of anime, I would say, is not really that. Just generally, anime, I haven't seen really good romance in more than a handful of anime.
Reo, you didn't care for the ending of Toradora. I may be wrong, but I'd be willing to bet that you didn't like the fact that a certain character's arc seemed to end with her being unhappy.
Oh.
I'm guessing, I could be wrong, but I get the feeling that's
because I think it's
part of what it is.
I think he's talking about how it was forced, not the surrounding characters.
Well, yeah. In
Toradora,
it ends up being brought about because of the characters.
That's true.
And yeah, I would have liked if they had maybe done that a little bit differently, but
Well, most romance don't show the happy ending, at least in anime. Kinda, yeah. It's more assumed. That's true.
And again, in something like this, it's with pretty much any story, you need to be honest with your audience and upfront with your audience about what kind of story you're going to be giving them. Because if it's something where it is about the mystery of who's going to end up with who, then that's what the story you're telling, and you need to tell that story. Don't make it obvious, right? If it's obvious this is how it's going to go, let's see how it happens, then there you go.
Okay, yeah. So Vexus, thank you so much for the follow. Glad to have you here. Yeah, Kaguya-sama season 2 confirmed. I'm so excited. Oh man. Oh, that's a good read up on Doctor Who canon. Very, very interesting, Jad the Mad. Appreciate it. That's interesting. I didn't know about that. You're really enjoying Carol and Tuesday right now. That almost went on a poll recently.
Cool. And that's on Netflix now, isn't it?
Because it was so recent, we decided to pull it off. Wait, there's no romance in what? Oh, Jew. Wow.
Yeah.
No, the other two were unhappy. The ending felt a little forced after all that work. Try not to spoil too much. Confession time at the end.
Yeah. And I guess at that point, it's just a matter of preference.
Yeah. I read a manga where the happy ending happened at the beginning and then fell apart from there.
Oh wow.
I want to read that.
Oh wow.
That
either seems awesome or awful.
I don't care. I want that. That sounds legit. Okay. But here's what I mean with regards to the romance thing. How many stories out there will do these characters are together in the beginning of the story? 100% guarantee they will break up at some point in the portion of the story. These two have some kind of will they, won't they? 100% guaranteed that they will only get together at the very end of the series.
Right.
I'm looking at you, things like, I don't know, Naruto.
Well, or just general serialized television where it's like, we think we might not be able to get another season after this because the ratings are starting to drop.
It's so
Let's
meta.
Get them get together. Yeah.
It's so meta. It actually makes me want to claw my face off. It actually makes me hate romance. So when Jacob introduced me to things like Toradora, I really did not want to did not want to watch it.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to enjoy it. True.
Yeah.
But when we got into it, and from the beginning, I kind of knew. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I actually kind of liked it. So, yeah.
Golden Time. Yeah, Golden Time did some cool things. If they had kept the supernatural things out of Golden Time, that would have been awesome. But yeah.
In case Automod got me, yeah, I think it did damage you. Anyone else consider the NTR failed romance of Manwe Varda and Melkuk?
Melkuk?
Because Melkor the Cuck was basically.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh my god. Every Silmarillion reference just gives me life and kills me at the same time.
Romance and fiction can either be absolutely amazing or absolutely frustrating. And oftentimes I feel like it's both. And that's why, like, one of the best times to, like, enjoy romance in my mind is, like, when you're still in kind of that, like, angsty, like, stage of things. Because then the frustrating aspect, because that's part of how romance is. Like, especially if you're watching it from the outside. Because we're all fools in love, you know.
Yeah. It's kind of sad that it's almost subversive to have a romance that's built on respect and stay together all the way through.
I
Firefly.
know.
Firefly.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear a funny story? The show Firefly specifically had a setup where they had a racially different couple. In this case, we have a Caucasian guy and an African American woman married in the show,
and the African American woman definitely wore the pants in the relationship.
Definitely wore the pants, and like she did all the fighting and stuff like that. And then the guy was the sensitive one with all the the really good kind of heart to heart moments and stuff. And they had like incredible married sex, like, you know, in the show, and like had jokes about the whole, you know, oh, is the captain kind of flirting with her or something like that? And him feeling maybe some insecurity regarding the marriage. Because
he was her superior officer, so she would answer with like sir and things like that. And he's like, I don't know, I don't like how chummy you are. That makes me feel uncomfortable, you know.
And they stay tight knit throughout the whole thing. And I heard that the studio, I think it was Fox, was like, you need to break them up. Well, you need to throw in some shenanigans where she's
make her have an affair with Mal.
With Mal.
With her superior officer.
So they had a joke specifically in the episode where he was like, well, I mean, I'm your superior officer, so if I gave you an order to, you know, have sex with me, you would have to do it, right? So she just walks up to him. He's like, yes, sir, take me now. And then she does this right in front of
the husband, so that he's like, you know, to basically like it's
so cringy and
it's
hilarious.
So cringy but so hilarious with how they do it, because it's like her basically telling her husband, like, no, stop being an idiot, like, I love you. You know, it's like, do you see what's happening here? Do you see how ridiculous this is? Like, it's great.
It's
that was
amazing. Well, and that was a subversion of expectations.
Well, and that was also quite potentially one of the big things that caused the show to get cut, because the execs were like, you know, this will bump the ratings, right? And it'll make the show more successful.
Yeah.
You need to do this or we'll cancel the show because it's not profitable enough. Yeah. And Joss Whedon, bless him, told them where they could stick those particular requests for the characters.
Yes, I know that's why it's in the story for AO. Yes, that's because of the torture, and the husband's insecurities.
Yep.
But I believe, I'm not sure about this, but I believe it was also a meta joke regarding what the studios wanted them to do.
Right. Mal didn't phrase it as it being an order, but it was rather, your husband, you know, said that this is what must happen.
Right.
There's clearly some sexual tension, so I must take you to bed. Yeah, and she's like, all right, take me, sir, take me hard.
Oh my gosh, yes. Sorry, we missed a bunch of things there when we were ranting about Firefly.
Sauron is just a harem Demon Lord Tsundere villain. I mean, he wishes he was a harem Demon Lord.
Who's in his harem?
Yeah.
Like, no one. And
Sauron
is such a loner.
That's the problem.
Yeah, that's the thing. He wishes Melkor gave him, you know, a little bit of attention. Oh my god.
with the Silmarils to make it burn. But,
oh my god. But yeah, I could totally see him being a tsundere, but not a harem.
Oh, like, 9 people. He has a harem of 9. I mean,
no, that's no.
They wouldn't
even really interact with
but the
Sauron.
thing is, he did try and make it a harem, though, because he sent gifts to everyone across the land to try and... Yeah, It was a kinky harem that he tried to set up, but...
I guess that's... Yeah, but that's more movie based logic, then like the Nine are servants more than.
Wait,
like,
what? Wait, what in the movies did it suggest that the Nine were part of his sexual entourage?
No, don't twist my words. Don't twist my words. What I'm saying here is that the Nine seem to be actually like, they were, Sauron spoke to them and like has even interactions with the Nine. Like, no. No. No, they're at the behest of the will of the ring. It's not even like Sauron's not even a thing in the.
Methinks Tolkien had a bitter breakup with a jeweler.
Oh my god!
You should
we've so derailed this podcast.
Yeah. Anyways, completely.
Oh my god!
But back to the original topic. NaNoWriMo is a thing that is out there and is amazing, and it is incredibly, incredibly useful for writing a story and getting it done. And the kind of prep that you need to do for something like NaNoWriMo, I feel like in order to have it really work, is the same kind of prep that people probably do for movies and things like that. So, because similar, amount of content, because that does change a lot of things. Like, it really does. Yeah. And trying to tell a good story in a short amount of time is much more difficult than telling a story in a long amount of time.
Yeah.
So if you want to do as an exercise, trying to write a shorter story that is still impactful, that can. Damn it! It's so hard to stay serious now.
I can't stay serious with you guys.
That can be very helpful for basically, because it'll force you to hold to certain tenets that can help the structure of your story. God damn it.
Just keep going. Yeah.
Anyways,
so thank you for watching the podcast with us. This was a lot of fun talking stories and stuff with you. I really love this kind of aspect of it. There, we didn't get to do the part.
There were rails on this podcast.
Yeah, I did. We didn't get to do the part I really wanted to do, which was create kind of a little bit of a mini story with you guys here. But maybe we can do that in the next one of something.
And we kind of went through most of that of like, you make the skeleton and then,
Yeah, that probably makes a good clip, if anything, but not much else. Thank you all so much for the recent follows and stuff like that. Nachia, and everyone else, thanks for hanging out. But yeah. If you want to stay updated with all our stuff, we stream at 3 p.m. Pacific time, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Subscribe if you want to access not only to all the fancy little funky sub badges and stuff like that, little magnets and things like that, but also the Discord as well, which is usually only for patrons, but if you are a Twitch sub, you also get access to that as well. So sync up your accounts there, and we can hang out with you and chat about these story related things.
And also, if you're wanting to see my previous work, or what came from a previous work of NaNoWriMo from me, my sci-fi novel Battle Lines, because you have never heard of it before, is available on Amazon. The link's in the description of all our videos. There's some reviews there, so you can see like what other people thought. If you do get it, make sure to leave a review yourself.
All right, so have a good everybody. We've got Tuesday One Piece manga review.
Yes.
Thursday Jacob's doing Komi-san Can't Communicate manga.
And it's the third volume, which is the last one that's out right now.
Oh my god! And then I'm doing Tales of Berseria playthroughs on Fridays. So see you all in one of those future streams, hopefully. And we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time. So the thing is, the Nazgul, like, if they did, so they don't have any faces, so like, but he's an eye, so it's not like they can really, they couldn't truly
Sauron
be his harem.
Might be a tsundere based on the personality we've somewhat established through the extended Tolkien, universe and what have you. But he did not have a harem. I mean, he maybe had some weird crushes or something, but definitely.
I mean,